Hello and welcome to part two of our theme for this week, which is all about fashion and normally sort of like slightly older fashion. So we're going to dive straight into our new words today. Remember, make sure you have a pen and paper handy, you're scribbling down the vocab, you're practicing it, you're learning it, having a go writing sentences in the comments box below. And of course, if you're inside the club, then you're having a go at the quizzes and practicing it on there as well. So, word number one for part two is the verb embellish. So, to embellish essentially means like to decorate or add details to something in the sense of clothing, but it's often things that maybe aren't necessary as well. Like sometimes you're going a little bit over the top with it. So, if I was going to use it in a sentence, I would say something along the lines of the dressmaker decided to embellish the dress with intricate patterns of beads. So, this idea you could almost imagine the context like she's created a dress and then she's decided, I'm going to take it one step further and I'm going to add all these beads and patterns and little details all over it. So she's embellishing it. She's sort of going almost a little bit over the top and adding all those details. So word number two is a noun, and the word is cravat. So a cravat is essentially a type of like necktie that's worn by men. So where we now in sort of modern times, when we think about a tie, we think about one that people sort of push up and it has like a long tail coming down on it. Whereas a cravat is more almost like a sort of like almost like a small scarf that's sort of tied around and sort of tucked under the shirt. So cravats were probably a lot more sort of fashionable and worn a lot more previously or historically than they are today. So if we were going to use the word cravat in a sentence, we could say something like, he wore a stylish cravat with his suit to add a touch of sophistication. So it's this idea, if you're wearing a cravat, you're wearing like quite sort of like formal dressed up attire. The next word is the adverb pompously. Now, this word doesn't necessarily just relate to like clothes and style and fashion, but we wanted to add it in because we thought it was a really great word to learn. So, if you're being a little bit pompous or doing something pompously, it's like you're kind of showing off, normally in a way that's almost a bit like you're acting like you're a bit higher than other people around you. Sometimes you might use the phrase like looking down your nose at someone if you're being a bit pompous. So, like a synonym for it would maybe be to do something like arrogantly, almost like you're a bit of full of your own self importance. So, if we were going to be using that in a sentence, we could say something along the lines of the Duke strutted into the room dressed pompously, wearing a suit that was embellished in jewels. So, the idea there in that sentence, the context is that first of all, we've got the word strutted. So, if you're strutted, you're kind of like, walking along, showing off. And then we're talking about like sort of how he's doing it in like a pompous way. And again, it's that idea of like self-importance. And he's also kind of dressed in a way that he's like embellished in all these jewels. So he's really kind of showing off and trying to make a statement there. The next word is an adjective gaudy. Now, again, we can use this in lots of different contexts, but for this one, we'll talk about it in the context of maybe like clothing. So gaudy is something that's normally quite bright, quite sort of in your face. It's not really used as like a compliment. Normally, it's maybe like if you're talking about like colors that are clashing or they don't quite work together, and it's not kind of fitting for the situation that you're in. So, if we were going to use it for a sentence, we could do something like, she attended the ball in a gaudy gown that attracted attention from everybody in the room. So, in that context, there, if I'm describing her gown or her dress as being gaudy, what I'm trying to say is that, like, it didn't maybe perhaps suit like the sophisticated style of the ball. So, normally, again, like I say, gaudy can be like a little bit tasteless, like not really fitting for what it should be. It's not really a compliment that we would use to describe clothing or anything in general. And the last word in this series of 10 words is the noun petticoat. So again, you sometimes see this word in modern times, but it's much more of a fashion item that was used kind of historically by women. So a petticoat is essentially a kind of like loose slip skirt that women would wear under their dresses. So if we were using it in a sentence or if you kind of saw it in a text, you might see something like, the ball gown had several layers, including a petticoat, to give it shape and volume. So you think kind of historically with for women, they used to wear like lots of layers, used to wear like very big full dresses, didn't they? And a petticoat was kind of one of those many layers that they would wear underneath the dresses. Okay, so well done for learning all those words. Here is the list of all of the words that we have covered in today's video. Make sure again, as always, that you hit pause, write them down, you've got your definitions, and of course, have a practice of this vocabulary. So whether that's commenting on the YouTube video, doing the quizzes in the club, or having a go at the creative writing tasks that we're setting for you inside the 11 Plus English Club. And if you have any questions about joining the 11 Plus English Club, or you're curious on what you're missing out on, make sure you get in touch with us. You can email us at hello@11plusenglishclub.co.uk, or you can generally find us on social media under that handle 11 Plus English Club, and we'll be very happy to have a chat with you and support you in your 11 Plus studies. Otherwise, have a wonderful week, and I look forward to sharing our next video with you on Monday.